Okay, we will continue from where we left off. The target for today's lesson will be modeling doors, windows, and a staircase. Okay, it will be very simple. In fact, you have already done the doors in the earlier lesson, right? But we will just have some further, what do you call it, detail on how you can play around with the configurations of doors in Archicad itself. Okay, so what we will do is, say for example, now you go to your door, okay, door over here, right? And instead of directly going to your model, ah, and then uh, what you will do is you will double click on the door, okay, and then I'll do this part. Okay. Somehow I cannot view any of the students now leh. Hmm. Okay. Wow. And the attendance thing is also still not fixed. Okay, do you all see anything now from your screen? I cannot see you also. Okay, I think for today that one cannot work. So you all just turn your head, okay? Sorry, it's just the way it is. Okay, so I will continue from where we left off. So essentially, now what we want to introduce to you is instead of using the door and then choosing the options from the ribbon that is over here, which you learned in the last lesson by using your middle mouse button to scroll. What you will do is you will double click at the door icon here under the design tab. So when you do this, this configuration will come up and you will be able to see that there is a drop down here of the different kinds of doors in Archicad 26. The number here 26 means the version of Archicad. Okay. For the doors that you have at your selection now here, these are the hinged doors. Okay. If you were to cycle through all of these other options, you will be able to access the other different doors that come pre-packaged in Archicad 26. Okay, when you are more comfortable with using Archicad, uh, there is a lot of BIM resources online where you can also download these libraries and use them within your file, right? So you will just need to point Archicad to the location of where you have saved these linked files later on. Okay, for now, I will not confuse you on how to do that. We will just work with the default doors that we have now. For example, these hinged doors that we were at earlier on. Okay, so you can feel free to just any door now. For example, if I were to choose this metal door over here, right, and then you click OK. And when you place this door now, this door should be a different kind of door from the earlier door that you have. Okay, because essentially this metal door by default, it will always be flushed on the outside because this is meant to be an external door. Okay, so you can always assess and take a look at how they look like via this generic perspective in the project map view on the right hand side. So just double click on this. And now you should be able to see this new door that we have set up, whereby the door frame is flushed with the exterior of the uh, wall. Okay. So now what we are going to do, this was just a testing, right? We will go back to our ground floor view. So you can either double click here on the ground floor view on the right hand side of your project map. Or if you notice, there are options here on the top of your window. Okay, these are the tabs where your drawings are. Okay, so now I can simply click on ground floor here, and it will also toggle me back to this particular interface. What I just want you to do is to delete the earlier door that you have had modeled in the earlier lesson, right? So you will notice that for Archicad, you will always need to click on the door frame to select the door. You cannot click on the door swing. It's only on the frame. Okay, and simply press delete on your keyboard to delete the door. Now we want to choose a setting out point for our door. Okay, I will still keep it to my nice metal door from earlier on. So I click on my door. You will notice that Archicad will always remember your last drawn door. You will notice here on the top left hand of your ribbon user interface. Okay, so just to refresh your memory, what you have learned in the earlier lesson was that when you hover over a particular point in Archicad, some of you may not see the animation, that's fine. As long as you have this tick, means that it has already uh, indicated that this is the correct point that it will set out from. Okay, so what we did in the earlier lesson was a shortcut whereby if we want to make it go to the right, we will have to put it as X, which will toggle you to this horizontal setting out. And then you will key in the distance. And because the units is in mm, right? So if you type 200 means it's 200 mm. And just press plus, which is to tell uh, Archicad that this is to the right hand side. Okay. In the earlier lesson, you will realize that sometimes we use negative, means that we will go to the left hand side if it's X, and then for vertical Y coordinate system, negative means you will go down. Okay, positive means you will go up. Okay, and then now you simply need to press enter, and then oh, I think I didn't do it correctly. Oh. Oops. Okay, I think we need to key in a larger value. Yes, because the for this metal door, right, it's not benchmarking it from the corner of the door. So it's to the center of the door. So in order to offset this benchmark, we can just press plus 600, enter, and then this will be correct. Okay. And just make sure that you are swinging out over here. Okay, like so. Okay, let me just share with you again a shortcut. Sometimes when you want to quickly access the 3D view, right? The shortcut is F3, and this will automatically toggle you to your 3D view. Okay, so just now what we did was to double click on the door to access the door settings. You can select a door also, like what I mentioned just now. And for this particular door, if you want to edit the settings, right, a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut will be Control T. Okay, and then you will be able to access the keyboard shortcut here and the user interface that corresponds to that. And for now, you may even want to change the kind of door that you want. So if I now choose door with transom and click OK, when I toggle to F3, you will notice that now you are able to change the type of door automatically. Okay, you can also do this in the 3D view as well. Okay, I select my door, I Control T, and you can play around with the parameters that have been set up for you within the default Archicad library. So you will notice over here, this is the width of the door, and then this is the height of the door. The advantage that Archicad have over Revit is that you can notice from the way that the user interface is designed, it is a lot more uh, user-friendly, user-centric, right? Because they have icons that will easily tell you what you're supposed to be looking at. Okay, but having said that, right, Revit allows you much more configurability in terms of the Revit families. Okay, for uh, Archicad, there will be a e-learning exercise where you will learn how Archicad actually determines their equivalent of Revit families, but you will need to learn a bit more advanced techniques over there. So not as easy to make a family than in Revit, but uh, the libraries that come with Archicad are quite useful and exhaustive already. Okay. So in a nutshell, right, from a practical point of view, if you are doing like simple landed houses, right, or simple less than 5-story buildings that are not very customized, then Archicad is perfect because it's very easy to use and very fast to use. And the memory usage is also very efficient. Okay, and it's also good cross-platform for Mac. Okay, but for Revit, uh, it's more a better choice if you have more complex jobs, okay, or jobs that require high configurability, high customization, okay, and Revit is not available in the Mac platform. So when you try to run Revit using Bootcamp in Mac, it's very slow, okay? So uh, the only use that you can have had earlier on was if you did the oh sorry what I meant was parallel desktop will be very slow to use Revit, but if you can have a old Intel chip Mac, then using Revit on Bootcamp is still manageable. Okay, but now Apple has moved away from that, so that particular avenue is no longer there. Okay, so that's just a sidetrack, but at least you all will be aware of the differences between the two softwares, and then you will know what kind of choice that you can make in future if you are ever in the position where you can decide what is the software that you want to use. Okay, so let's just try to experiment now. Okay, I'm going to change my front door, right? Maybe I want my front door to be very nice and big, and I will type um, 1500 just to make it very visible. And for my door height, I can even change it to 2.7. Okay, once I click on OK, you will notice that you see this door will automatically update itself. And as we have just shared with you earlier, for this door, the reference point is in the middle. Okay, so that's why once you expand, it will expand both on the left and the right. Kind of like when you get fat, like when I get fat, then you expand on the left and the right. Okay, so you can always move again, right? So you can also do that in Archicad itself. Sorry, in 3D view of Archicad itself. You don't have to go back to 2D view. Okay, so when I select the door, you will notice that this particular button uh, below the pencil point has a distance, right? I can tab and toggle to my distance again, and I can say, for example, I want to move it like 600, right? And then now you can also move precisely in 3D view, okay? And so feel free to play around with this, right? Uh, when you do your assignment, the assignment will be whatever that you model, right? So it's not an aesthetic exercise, okay? It doesn't mean that you need to make your building very beautiful, but just make sure that it makes sense, right? So feel free to go and configure your doors accordingly. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to let you experiment to place more doors. Okay. And let me just show you how you can put the door even from the 3D view, right? So similarly, you can just place a door right here and just make sure that if you notice on the 3D view, you can also choose where the swings are. You see, as I hover over the user interface, it can be swinging in or swinging out and to which particular direction. Okay, and I just need to left click to complete the option, the operation. Okay, so I'll just generally put a door over there. And now what I want to do is I just want to create a double door. This one over here, double door 26. And I'll make it even bigger. So 1.8, click OK. And then you can always step to the midpoint, right? If you notice, when I hover over to the wall, even in 3D view, right, it will be able to snap to the midpoint. Okay. So what you have learned earlier is you can always change this snapping to be half or divisions and even specific distances between them for each of the wall. Okay, and just as a refresher from our earlier lesson, where I've already shown you how to use the um, pipette tool, you can use this button over here, like the syringe, right? No, sorry, the dropper. You can dropper this, and then you can click this to inject this to here. Okay, so this works not only in 2D view, but also in 3D view. Okay, this is just to illustrate to you how to use it. And lastly, how do you navigate within the 3D view? So when you press and drag on your scroll or middle mouse button, you'll be able to pan in the 3D view. When you hold on to Shift in your keyboard, then you will be able to orbit when you press and hold on the scroll or middle mouse button. So I repeat again, when you want to pan, just use the middle or scroll button. When you want to orbit, then hold down Shift on your keyboard and then drag your middle or scroll button. Okay, so then it'll be just as simple as like using the scroll button to zoom out, go to one corner, and then you orbit around that area. Okay, eventually you will get used to orbiting around in 3D view. Okay, so now let's explore further options in the 3D view. Okay, I just want you to focus on the double door that we have now. Select it. Okay, and then you will notice here that there are buttons. Okay, the black dots over here, as well as a pink dot over here. Sorry, a purple dot over here. Okay, so when you select them, you are able to drag them horizontally and even drag them vertically, right? This one is more applicable if it's a window, okay? But technically, it's possible for you to move up your door in Archicad just by selecting on this second option over here after you have clicked on the dot, okay? So it's the third button here. You can move it up. Click on this. You can even flip it to the other side, which is what I've done. See, I click on this and then I choose this. Okay, so I'm just going to move it back down again. Okay, the next thing that I want to show to you is after you have selected this door, and if you hover to this little dot here and wait for it to have the tick again, when you left click on this, there will be other options other than what we have shared with you just now, which is to move move up or move horizontally. There is this button where you can stretch your door. So if I were to click on this, now you will notice that I will be able to stretch the door intuitively. So it's kind of different when we use Control T and then we key in the value. But you will notice that now after I press Control T, this particular width also changes dynamically. So this is useful as a design tool where sometimes you want to take note of certain viewpoints from 3D and you want to design from 3D and then you just stretch until it makes sense. Then after that, you double check the dimensions. Or in this case, I can even just uh, change it to be a more modular dimension and click OK. Yeah, then now this is it. Mm. Yeah. So you see now, if I were to select this door and I delete, then it will be, oh, it's the same as Revit. Revit, for that, Revit also has this ability. Okay, so now, right, what we want to share with you is you can also configure in Archicad how you want the door to be visually. Okay, so if I want to open the door now for this 3D view, sometimes you want to configure your rendering, right? So you will zoom in. So I usually zoom in so that I can find it easier to select the magenta dot and wait for the tick to appear. Once I click on this, you will notice that now there is an option that says opening angle in 3D, right? You can either key in a specific value, right? Or you can move your mouse and it will tell you how many degrees that is. Okay. So if I were to repeat, you just wait, zoom in until you can see the magenta dot. And you have to make sure that the tick button is activated. Okay. Then you left click. After you have left click, when you move your mouse, right, you'll be able to open the door lift panel. Okay. You can also key it in manually. So for example, now I want to open this 60 degrees and I press enter. And that's that. Okay. Maybe for the next one, I will open it by 90 degrees. So I'm going to select this dot again. Oops. So you see, sometimes Archicad, you have to be patient. You have to wait for the cursor to change, right? Then you click and then you open. In the first lesson, I was telling you that, right? So it's a personal preference thing. So you see the between the two software platforms, Archicad and Revit, there is these are those minor differences. Okay. Now I can just type 90 and press enter. And when I zoom out, you will notice that I have now been able to configure my 3D view and customize how I would like my doors to open. Okay. So I just want now for you all to pen and go to this view now. You will notice that the way in which Archicad draws doors is in a drawing convention that is Europe based. Okay. Archicad is developed in Europe. Revit is in America, but now we are living and working in Singapore, right? So the Singapore drawing convention is always that the dotted lines, right, point to the hinge. Okay. So how do we change that? So we can go to document and then go to model view and then go to model view options. Okay. And you will realize from here that there is a lot of different configurations that you can adjust. Okay. So I want you all to focus here on the detail level of door, window, and skylight symbols. Right. So if you just click on this, it will expand the tab for you. Okay. So over here, you can change like how detailed you want the door to be represented. Sometimes you want to draw it full. Sometimes you just want to draw it symbolically, because it will depend on the level of drawing uh, intent that you want for your use. If you want to present to the client, you will just have something that's symbolic like this, right? So that it's also neater. And then when you want to issue construction, you may want to have something that is more detailed like this. Okay. So now I want to share with you this other option here, which says miscellaneous settings for library parts. Right. So over here, you can also further configure how you would want your door to be. Right. You can change from curve, which is the door swing, to be just the straight or opening axis line. So maybe let me just show you with straight. Right, I click OK. And then let's go to ground floor view. See, now instead of having them as a curve, you will just see them as a straight. Okay, now let me just go back and show you again. If we were to toggle this back now to curved, and then it will be like this. So there's multiple ways to configure this. Okay. So you go to document and then go to model view options. Okay. So now if we want to change the line orientation, right? Now it's to the handle. You will notice this is available on the bottom right. Okay, after you select miscellaneous settings for library parts, click on this and now you can choose hinges and click OK. If I were to go back to my 3D view, you will see that now it has swapped to this. Okay, we can also further uh, adjust this. So again, document, model view options, and you can change. Now you see that on the opening side, this is dash, and on the inside is solid line. Right? You can also make this consistent. So on the opening side, also dashed, dashed. So both sides dashed. And click OK. And now you will see they are consistent. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to orbit to this view here now, right? On this side over here. And I want you all to create a window. We'll just select the window tool here. Click on this. And once you are at the window, sorry, at the wall, you can just place it. Okay, and then same thing, you can choose whether it's inset here or flipping to which particular area. I'm just gonna put this down now. like this. Okay. And I want to show you how to use the multiply tool. So select your window and hover to the black dot. And when there's a tick, you can just left click. And you will notice that there's this palette here again, right? Now what we can do is we will choose the multiply tool here, the fifth icon, and you will be able to array it in accordance to how many you want to have. Okay, so let's just try to test if we want to have uh, 5 windows. Okay, so I'm just going to select the distribute and I'll choose 5 copies, right? And then click OK. And if I were to move this cursor to the end over here, and then now left click again, you will notice that I will be able to drag and, release where my windows can be. Okay. And then now I will have dragged and made 5 more copies in accordance to my start and end point. Okay, and you will distribute it accordingly. I'm going to undo now because there can be different kinds of settings that you would like to have, right? So same thing, click on the black dot and then click on multiply. And now, instead of distributing it from the start to the end, we can also do it from um, increment and spread. Okay. So click on OK. And you'll notice here, right at the bottom left-hand corner, right, Archicad will always prompt you what it needs. So in this manner, you will need to enter the drag reference point. Okay, so I can take this to my drag to be my drag reference point. Right, I'll click here, and then I will click here. Right, so the first click is to determine the distance of one copy from the original reference point. Right, okay, I'm just going to click once, and then elevation 0. Okay, so that will give me one copy. That is what we did in the earlier lesson. Okay, so wait, let me just make sure this is adjusted again. Click on this, increment and spread, right? So click OK. So you start from your reference point here. Click, right? And then now you click first for the first reference point. And now when you move your cursor, right, you will just keep automatically telling you how many more windows you can add with this spacing in between them. Right, so this is another different way of you trying to model. And then you can just click here And the last one is elevation. Always just type 0, enter, so that you don't have slanted windows. Okay. So this is how you can model with this kind of technique. And lastly, I will just show you one more way to do this. So again, wait for the animation, click, click. And you can do this increment and spread. But I'll just show you increment and then you can experiment with spread by yourselves. Okay. So for increment over here, you will need to indicate how many you want at the end of the day, right? So maybe now I don't want so many, I just want 4. And I click OK. So what it just needs from you first is where you're benchmarking it from. Okay, so my reference point will be from the start of this window. So left click. And then now automatically it already knows that you only want 4 more copies. So here you will be able to choose how many you want and you can redistribute it according to the spacing from the original reference point and then the number of final copies that you have. Okay, so this is a good technique to do when you know that you have a fixed budget, fixed amount of windows, and you want to space them equally. And you click here, and elevation, same thing, 0, enter. Okay, and then for windows as well, right? You can always hover on the pink, magenta dot, right? So make sure the tick is there. Then you can left click, and now you can open your windows. Okay, you realize, right, that just now I shared with you how to stretch one particular door, right? Uh, for Archicad, you are also able to stretch multiple iterations as long as you select all of them together. Okay, so now what I've done is I've used the shift button on my keyboard. I just hold on to shift and then I selected my windows. Okay, so shift is to add or subtract from your selection. See, I can hold on to shift and click on something that I've already selected before and you will deselect it. Okay. So now that I have all 5 of my windows selected, what I can do is I can, same thing, go to my black dot over here, make sure that the tick is up, and then now you can left click and choose this particular stretch horizontal option. And now I can stretch my windows automatically like so. Okay, and now all the windows will stretch. Okay, so if you want to stretch it back, so say for example, I want to benchmark it from this window now, right? Because it's being cut by the wall. Okay, so just hover and wait for the tick to come up. Left click, right? Stretch, and I'll just stretch it so that it will miss this wall, internal wall, and select this now, and then it will adjust all the other windows accordingly, even the one that you have opened the window. And this also works for stretching it upwards as well. So just simply click on the second button over here and you can stretch it upwards. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to introduce to you how to make a slab. Okay, so go to your ground floor view, right? So simply click on ground floor tab over here. Or like I mentioned before, you can double click on the project map over here. And then what you want to do is you want to select the slab button here, the fourth button over here. Okay, and you will click this, and then you will go to this corner point here. The same thing again, have to wait for the tick to come up. Okay, something like so. Select, and then now by automatically this is selected, right? So this is somewhat similar to the way that we have modeled the walls in the earlier lesson, right? You can drag a diagonal line. Okay, so this is the easiest way to draw a slab. So as long as I go to the other diagonal, which is here, and then I left click, then you will be able to create my slab. So now you will see that I have this faint line over here. And this is, in fact, if now I go to my 3D view, the slab. Okay. Now, just the last part to wrap up today's lesson, which is the staircase, right? So what we will do is you go to your ground floor view again, right? And there's a staircase tool here. Left click on this. And you will select the first vertex of the staircase baseline, which should be this corner point here. Left click, right? And you will see that Archicad will automatically tell you, according to where your pencil is, the number of steps that you will reach at this particular point. Okay, I just want you to left click again, generally around like 10 steps, like this. And then you can move your cursor to the right, and you click again, and you click again. And you have to make sure that you have all the way until all the 20 steps come up. And then you left click now. And you will realize that this staircase is constructed, if I go to F3, to the floor level of the height that we have determined, or in this case, where it's the standard 3-meter height in Archicad. Okay, so that's where the staircase is automatically generated by Archicad for you when you pull and insert the vertex points. Okay, So the interesting thing about Archicad is same thing, is always about the black and magenta dots, right? So if I hover over this particular black dot now, and then there is the tick, I can click on this, right? And I can move, right? I can move the node of this, right? And I can move it all the way to this corner over here. And again, wait for the arrow button and the tick. Okay. And same thing over here. I can stretch this to this side and then click. Okay. So now it has automatically adjusted for us, right? How this can turn around. So maybe easier to visualize from 3D over to here. Right? So this is how your steps work. Okay. And for us to adjust this staircase, it's very simple. You just select the staircase and then I can type Control T. And what I can do now is you can see that currently the risers, right, at the moment is let's see at 150. Okay, we can always adjust this to say 176 and click OK. And then now you will notice that with a higher height of the risers, then the extent of the staircase will be uh, correspondingly reduced. And if I were to look on my ground floor, right? So now this looks neat as well. Okay. So similarly, I can click on this black little dot and I can drag it to here. But you will notice that because of the number of steps, it will automatically terminate over here. Okay. So that's where Archicad knows and constrains itself based off on the riser heights and or your tread heights. Your tread heights. So if I were to Control T now, you can adjust the tread. So in this case, what you have over here is the going. They call it the going. If I were to change this going minimum, instead of 250, I would change it to 300. Okay. Then you can see that they will update themselves correspondingly. Okay. So I can again Control T. I can change this to maybe the riser height I will reduce slightly, 158, and click OK. See now it looks much more neater again. Okay, let's try again now. If I were to Control T, again calibrate this down now to 150 and OK. So then now it looks significantly neater than before, right? And in fact, with further adjustments, right? So instead of minimum 300, you adjust to say 350. The maximum, of course, you have to adjust this accordingly. 450. Oops. Okay, so this one too much. Control T. Yes. So maybe if I were to now make it very specific, it will be 305. And this one is also 305. Yeah. And then you can stretch it to here. Okay. So then now you will have a very neat staircase. Right. And if you check on 3D, it will be perfect. Okay. So this is quite a fast and intuitive way of creating the staircase. Okay. And then now let's go back to the ground floor view and complete the staircase by drawing a railing. Okay, so the railing button is over here on the left, right below the staircase. So you click on this. And then first node of the railing can be sold up to this corner here. Pick. And then to the other corner here. And finally to this corner here. Oops. So make sure that, yes, tick. Okay. And then just right click and click OK. Okay, I accidentally clicked it a few more times just now, but don't worry. So you can just click on this node now. And I can snap it back, snap it back, and snap it back. Okay, so now you have removed those additional node points. Go to F3, and you will notice that you have your railing here. Okay, it's offset a little bit into the wall. Okay, but not to worry, right? So you will select your railing first, and then same thing, Control T. Now you will notice that you have this distance over here, the geometry and placement of this from the staircase, right? So you can play around with this distance. See, if I type 300, it will adjust itself. Okay, undo, right? So this is right to this particular height. Okay. And you can also configure your segments, your top rails, even your profiles, the rails itself, the inner post also. So it's all very intuitive from the user interface. What you're going to change, the connection, the ends, even these ends that you see over here, you can make them turn down. Okay. So I'm just going to click OK now, and then I will go back to my ground floor view here. Okay. And I can adjust this accordingly. So say, for example, now I want to move it to a distance of 150, right? So I can adjust this. I can click this, type 150. Same thing here, 150. And then move it down. Similarly, 150. So you have to wait for the arrow to come up, and then you can click on the node again. Somehow just now I drew more nodes, so it's fine. You just have to snap to this one. Okay, similarly here, 150. So always wait for the tick to appear before you adjust your railing. Okay. And the cool thing is, because just now we have created more points here, right? I can select my railing now. I select this point here and I move it out. Sorry, this one was the one that was additional. So I move it out by 150. And then I move this one out again by 150. And shift this to say 300. And move this down by 150. And then select this dot over here. Oh, I think it's better if it's this one will go back to here. Okay. And now you can check it in 3D. So that you can turn the railing backwards again and along the side of the wall. Okay. Oh, I noticed here, right? There's just one small step here, but it allows you to adjust this height configurably like that. Okay. And the cool thing is, even after you have drawn this railing, right? When you use Control T, you can always change. Wait, maybe let me just go to this one. Here on this gearbox icon here, instead of the metal railing that we see now, I can change it to frameless glass railing. And I select this, apply, okay, and it will update itself. So now this looks much nicer. Okay, so remember to save the file, and then I will stop the recording now and I'll go to your Oh, okay, wait, let me just stop this one.